Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance coming to you from inside the majestic Tennessee State Capitol. We are joined today by Doug Overbey. He is a member of the Tennessee State Senate. And sir, it must be a lot more fun being a senator right now when the state is seeing a nearly $2 billion budget surplus.
Well, it's great to be here with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to
it's our pleasure.
talk with our constituents.
It's our pleasure.
It is a great time to be in the Tennessee General Assembly. Our state is moving forward. We have a lot to be thankful for. We have about the third lowest combined state and local per capita tax burden.
Sure.
We have the lowest per capita debt of any of the 50 states. We've done remarkably well in job creation and recruiting new businesses to our state. As you noted, revenues have picked up, but also part of the reason we have a surplus is because we have, at least in the Finance Committee, taken a very conservative approach to budgeting.
And let's talk about that, because not only do we see surpluses with regard to non-recurring funds, but recurring funds as well, which says a lot. Almost $1 billion in non-recurring, about $750 million in recurring. But as you know, that's a blessing and a curse, because when you see all this new money come in, there's a lot of people would like to spend that money for good reason, I'm sure, and for good projects, I'm sure. So how do you approach this largesse?
Well, you're exactly right. Of course, there's an old saying around here that sometimes it's easier to put a budget together when funds are tight,
right.
because everyone understands.
Of course,
funds are tight, and you're only meeting the basic needs of the state. So to have a surplus does present its own challenges. Some of that surplus, though, is have plans made for it through the governor's budget proposal. The governor's proposed putting $130 million worth of new money into K through 12 education, $50 million to bring the lowest paid state employees up, significant amounts of new money for building new buildings on our public college campuses, universities, and community colleges. So, plus, and I think it's important for the constituents to know that, another $100 million into the state's rainy day fund.
Which is important.
Which is
part of the reason why your debt is so low, presumably, and I assume a great bond rating as well.
That's right. That's why our state has a AAA bond rating. It's why we were able to cope during the Great Recession. We did cut programs, but we didn't cut down to the bone marrow.
So what about some more, because what you've described, at least some of them, is one-time spending. It's easier to stomach, because literally you open a state library like you did last year, $120 million, and it's done. Transportation, for example, roads. I mean, here we are in Nashville. Traffic's rough. And so is there any effort to spend some of the surplus maybe for one-time transportation projects?
There is, and that's a very good question. And let's face it, our state does have transportation needs. We have infrastructure needs, and we've got to be seriously thinking about how we're going to take care of that. And also in a district like the one I represent,
in Knox County, or outside of Knox County.
Sevier County, Blount County, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We're a tourist mecca.
Of course.
And transportation is at the essence of bringing people in so that they can enjoy all the amenities that the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and our communities have to offer. But we also have to get them out of our community, right? We need to get them in, we need to get them out. If they're having to wait 2 years to get from point A to the interstate, will they come back? So,
and let me ask you about that, because as you know, in Tennessee, a lot of the funding for transportation projects comes through the gas tax.
Exactly.
And in our state of Tennessee, the gas tax has not increased since 1989, which again, it's a blessing, but some could call it a curse, because while Tennessee, like you said, has that third lowest tax burden, we have construction costs increasing, we have inflation, we have hybrid vehicles, which are not
Right.
spending as much gas, and therefore the tax revenue is down. So the governor's been making noise about the gas tax, and there's some nerves about it. What's your sense, sir?
Well, I think it's very much on people's minds, the minds of members of the General Assembly, but also minds of our state, of our local, of our city and county
Right.
officials, and well it should be, because we do have these infrastructure needs, and to turn a blind eye toward them would just lead to higher cost later on. Now, our governor has proposed in his budget putting I think another $130 million into the transportation budget.
But some have said that's money that was stolen from a few years ago, so well appreciated indeed. But, I think about the General Assembly here in Tennessee. Is there an appetite to really look at whether the gas tax needs to be hiked? It's, we're in a very we're in an environment where we've seen taxes cut. There was the elimination of the estate tax, and food tax went down by 0.5 cent. And so, there's a lot of pride in the fact that Tennessee's a low tax state. But at a certain point, like you said, you don't fix it now, it's more expensive in 5 years.
Well, I don't know that there's ever an appetite for increasing taxes. No one wants to do that. And as you mentioned, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've eliminated the death tax.
Right.
We've eliminated in the state the gift tax.
Right.
We've reduced gradually the haul tax. We've reduced the sales tax on food, and I think we take pride in that. But if we look at the fuel tax, it really is more of a user fee than a tax. And while no one wants to increase things, the public I think takes pride that we have one of the best highway systems of all 50 states, and that it's to our state's benefit to maintain good roads and good highways if we're going to recruit business,
Right.
if we're going to bring tourists in, because we always talk about how like 50% of the population of the nation lives within a 6-hour drive of Tennessee. That's to our benefit, and if we want folks to come here, they don't want to drive over potholes.
Let me ask you about the whole income tax, if we can call it an income tax, because ultimately it is, even though Tennessee doesn't have an income tax per se. But you suggested, and you rightly said, that we've seen some reductions in the whole income tax, which looks at bonds and stocks. But there is a desire to even cut it further. And so we were in surplus. So on the one hand, it seems like this could be a wise time to do that, but it impacts local government, which gets the 3/8 of the whole income tax. So where do we go on this front?
Well, several of us have been involved in the reduction of the whole income tax over several years. We have mainly done that by increasing the exemptions
Right.
for those 65 or older who are attempting to make ends meet off of their investments, and we have been very sensitive to them. I chair the revenue subcommittee, and we have probably considered about 11 or 12 different haul tax relief bills. I think we've sent 7 or 8 of those with a favorable recommendation to the full finance committee, and we're offering the members sort of a
Cafeteria.
A cafeteria, a buffet.
A buffet.
Of options, from reducing the tax from
Right.
6% to 5%, to increasing the overall exemption,
Right.
the amount of interest and dividend income that's exempt.
When you come back, can we talk more about it?
Certainly.
His name is Doug Overbey. He's a member of the Tennessee State Senate. I'm Pomerance, Charter Local Edition.